Okay, let's dive right into this really modern paradox. We live in a world that's just overflowing with information, so why is it so incredibly hard to just pay attention? We're going to break down why our focus feels so fractured and, way more importantly, how we can start to get it back.
Take a look at this number, 45 seconds. Research from computer scientists and psychologists shows that's the average amount of time any of us can focus on a single task now. Just one task. And get this, 20 years ago, that number was 2.5 minutes. That is a massive, massive drop.
So the big question is why? Why is that happening to all of us? And the truth is, it's not just about our phones buzzing. It's something deeper. Is it just that we all suddenly have less willpower? Well, the research says, no, it's not just you. There are some really powerful forces at play here, both in the world around us and inside our own heads, that are constantly pulling our attention apart.
All right, so let's start by really diagnosing the problem. To get why we're so distracted, we've got to look at 3 key things: how our minds deal with stress, the culture that we're all living in, and, of course, the constant digital world we're swimming in. Our brains are pretty much always switching between these two states. On one side, you have mindfulness, that feeling of being truly present, right here, right now. And on the other side, you've got mind wandering. And here is the absolute kicker. Studies show we spend nearly 50% of our waking hours with our minds wandering. Just think about that for a second. We are mentally checked out for half of our lives.
So what's pushing us into that state so often? Well, a huge one is stress. When we're chronically stressed out, our brains basically try to escape. We're less engaged with what's right in front of us, and we get more of what researchers call rejection of the moment. You know that feeling, right? Where you're just desperately wishing you were anywhere but here. It becomes this vicious cycle. Stress makes us distracted, and then being so distracted just makes us feel even worse.
And this isn't just a battle inside our own heads. It's cultural. This quote, it really gets to the heart of what people call hustle culture. It's this idea that's everywhere now that glorifies nonstop work and kind of treats any kind of rest or downtime as a failure. And this constant pressure to always be on, well, it just pours gasoline on the fire of our stress and anxiety. So here's the crucial point. This relentless pressure, it isn't just making us a little unfocused. It has real, actual consequences for our health. We're seeing burnout everywhere. Anxiety levels are through the roof, and chronic stress is just becoming the new normal. The funny thing is, the chase for endless productivity is actually destroying the very things we need to be productive in the first place: a healthy mind and a healthy body.
But what if there was an antidote to all this? A state of mind that's the complete opposite of that fractured, stressed-out feeling we've been talking about? Well, there is. It's called flow, and it might just be our way back to real focus. So this is the classic definition of flow. The whole idea was pioneered by a psychologist named Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. He was absolutely fascinated by artists who would get so lost in their work that they would literally forget to eat or drink or even sleep. They were just completely absorbed, and he wanted to figure out why.
And you've almost definitely felt this before. It's when you have this intense focus, your actions feel almost automatic, you completely stop worrying about what other people think, time seems to either fly by or slow way down, you feel totally in command, and the thing you're doing is just its own reward.
So how does this actually happen in our brain? Well, it all comes down to bandwidth. Our brains have a limit. They can only process about 110 bits of information per second. And to put that into perspective, just understanding me speaking right now takes up about 60 of those bits. So when you're in a flow state, you are dedicating all of that processing power to one single thing. There is literally no leftover attention for distractions or worries or even for noticing that you're hungry. And this chart, this just brilliantly illustrates the secret recipe for flow. It is all about balance. See, if a task is way too hard for your skill level, you feel anxious. If it's way too easy, you're bored. But when that challenge is high and it's perfectly matched by your skills, that's the sweet spot. That's where you find flow. Okay, this all sounds amazing, right? But how do we actually get there in our crazy, chaotic lives? Well, the good news is it's not about waiting for some perfect, stress-free moment to just magically appear. It's about actively creating the conditions for flow to happen right here and now. So here is your practical toolkit, your game plan. It starts with what we just talked about. You have to intentionally find that sweet spot between challenge and skill. Then, you've got to create the space for it. Yeah, that means getting rid of the obvious distractions, turn off the notifications. But it also means building your brain's capacity for focus. And the research here is so clear. Things like exercise, learning a new skill, getting enough sleep, they're not just good for your health, they are fundamental training for your attention. So, the most important point is this. Being present, being focused, it's a choice. It is a mental muscle that you have to build, day by day. It's not about waiting for a vacation or some quiet afternoon. The real training happens when you practice it during the stressful, the boring, the imperfect moments of life.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. In a world that is literally fighting for every second of your focus, taking it back is a radical act. Because what we choose to pay attention to, well, that's ultimately what we experience as our life. So, what would you choose?